Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Guitar Chat. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. We're so happy again to be here in our second year, I guess, because we started last year, 2021, and we're so happy to start over this little show that we do here on Thursdays. And well, I'm of course, as I always say, very happy, but especially today because we have a couple of new things. First of all, I wanna say hi, give a shout out to all our friends on Facebook because this is the first time we are doing Facebook Live, so that's a pretty cool thing as well. And of course our friends from YouTube, the ones that already follow us from the other shows that we've done. Welcome back again, of course. And as you might know already, Guitar Chat is a show that is brought to you by Vegatrem, the best tremolo system in the market for sure. And if you are not part of the family yet, please do so because we have this year, we're gonna do not one giveaway a month, we're gonna do two giveaways a month, so that's amazing. And the only thing you have to do is to be subscribed to our YouTube channel and leave a comment during this live stream. Okay, during this live stream, maybe this one, maybe the one from the next show, and in the show after this one, I'm gonna announce the winner of this live stream, this Guitar Chat. The only thing you have to do is be subscribed and leave a comment, and you're gonna be able to participate in the giveaway. Besides that, we're gonna be giving a discount code as well, with which you can go to our website and just use the code and get a pretty cool discount. So that's very nice as well. For instance, we had the winner of the giveaway of last month. His name is Luke Scullin. So congratulations, Luke. You have a VT1 going your way, which is very, very nice. Okay, so without further ado, let's talk about today's guest. We welcome the year with a new edition of Guitar Chat, and this time we start with an exceptional guest, Mr. RJ Ronquillo. RJ is a session player and YouTuber that has over 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, in which he does guitar gear demos as well as blogging and instructional material. He also has played with artists such as Santana, Stevie Wonder, Ricky Martin, Stone Sour, and Thompson Square, and many more, of course. So please, let's welcome Mr. RJ Ronquillo. How you doing, RJ?
Hey, Sefo, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure. I'm as I told you before, I'm very thrilled because I'm a big fan of your playing. I've been following you for a while, and I really appreciate everything you do. With your, I mean, not only the playing but also the instructional things that you do, and the blogging. It's pretty interesting as well. So
Thank you.
I'm very happy to have you in the show, and of course in the family, in the Vegatrem family, of course.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Can't beat it.
that's that's great, man. Well, first of all, I want to ask you about the beginnings. Like I usually do that, and I've heard out there that you started playing guitar because of Marty McFly. Is that true?
Yeah, that's the story. I grew up in the 80s. I'm an
Okay.
80s kid, 90s teenager. So, Back to the Future with
Uh huh.
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
That was like one of the biggest movies of my childhood, and the scene at the end where he's playing, well, he plays guitar throughout the whole movie, but at the very end when he's playing Johnny Be Good, that was a very important scene in my life, and that was the first time that I wanted to pick up the guitar. I was obviously aware of guitar. My father played it growing
Uh
up,
huh.
and I watched MTV and saw everything on TV. But at the time that the movie came out, I was at an age where I was really getting into music,
Yeah.
getting into possibly learning an instrument. At the time, I actually played piano. My parents
Oh,
made
nice.
yeah,
Okay.
they made my sister and I take piano lessons when we were really young. I think I was 6 years old when I started.
Uh huh.
So I already had some sort of musical knowledge as far as reading notes and knowing how scales work and everything. So um, I was bored at that time. I think I was like 9 years old at 10 years old. No, probably 9 years old when Back to the Future came out.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, piano wasn't for me. It was kind of dorky. I wanted something cool. And so,
Yeah.
the fact that here I am watching a big Hollywood star playing
Uh-huh.
old, rock and rhythm blues 50s stuff, that was exciting for me.
Yeah, I guess, and also I think the whole movie Back to the Future was super super cool for kids because I think we are the same age pretty much.
Yeah,
I'm also an '80s kid and '90s teenager, and
yeah,
it was the coolest thing. Back to the Future was a very very great movie, especially even starting that scene when he plugs the guitar, that very small guitar onto
yeah,
that huge amp, and he he goes blowing through the walls. That's something that I don't know if you agree with me, but 80s kids, we grew up thinking that guitar music was the coolest thing ever.
yeah. I think compared to other generations, I think the '80s was a really good time to pick up guitar and play rock music or whatever was on the radio, because the pop culture
Uh-huh.
as a whole, the
Yeah.
entire pop culture, whether it was music, movies, TV, MTV, was so um, powerful, and it was so energetic. There was it was like the renaissance of pop culture in the '80s.
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. I think so. And especially, all those bands that had all the shredders and everything, but also the other generation that came from maybe from the 70s and the 60s, they were still being heard because I remember the first time I heard Jimi Hendrix, it was probably early 90s, for me, and
Okay.
I was completely blown away for it, So it was still something cool to hear, right? It wasn't outdated or anything like that.
Yeah, I think I remember in the '80s there was kind of this retro um, part of the pop culture where this '60s in particular was
Yeah.
extremely popular. Hippie culture, Woodstock. I think it was what it would have been like the 25th anniversary of Woodstock or the 20th anniversary of Woodstock at the time, and
Uh-huh.
bands were coming out that were sounding like they were from the '60s and stuff. So it was kind of like that throwback retro thing that happened in the '80s, and it doesn't really happen now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. It doesn't happen right now, but in the 80s we had a little bit of that. Also in the 90s, because right now I'm thinking about the Black Crowes, for instance. I mean, they're just a hippie band, they're just
Yeah,
they might as well could have come out on the in the 70s or late 60s maybe as well, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now that I think about it, now there's a lot of pop artists that are taking elements from '80s pop, not
Yeah.
necessarily rock, but
Uh-huh.
'80s pop, even '90s pop and R&B. You think of guys like Bruno Mars, and they're basically making '90s R&B records or '80s R&B
Uh-huh.
records. So it's what they do. So maybe in 20 years they'll be making 2010 records or something.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. That's gonna happen eventually, I guess. That's gonna happen for sure. Well, I hear on your playing, I hear a lot of 50s style music. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think you like that thing at all because I mean, that's what I hear when you play. For instance, when you play blues, I hear that kind of old blues, that I love. Especially, the tone you use and everything. Tell me a little bit about that.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's kind of a big part of my style now, but for the longest time I didn't really accept that that was part of my personality.
Oh,
I was talking about Back to the Future, and the Chuck Berry thing, and that was like the first guitar hero was Chuck Berry. All the '50s music was what I listened to when I first started playing guitar. And as I grew up and started learning more styles and more about the guitar, I didn't really pay attention to that music anymore. And then really maybe 10, 15 years ago, I was kind of, taking a step back and thinking about who I was as a guitarist, what was my guitar style, what was my personality as a guitarist, because for the whole time I had been a professional musician, I was a hired gun sideman, so I was playing basically other people's styles, and that was
Yeah.
kind of the job. But I didn't really have a style to call my own necessarily. So I
Uh-huh.
was trying to think of like who I was as a guitarist, and that was an element, was 50s rock and roll, absolutely. Um, all kinds of old school blues was a big influence. Basically, I was trying to think of what music do I love so much more than anything, and what could I see myself playing for the rest of my life. And it comes down to those elements plus jazz and like 80s hard rock.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, so it's kind of combined all these different influences over the years.
Man, but sounds very, very natural in your hands. So I wonder if was that the I mean, of course you already told me it was like your first influence, but maybe growing up, being a teenager, playing in your first band, was that the style you played when you were like developing as a guitar player?
I think when I first started playing music and forming my own little bands with my friends, yeah, we played some '50s rock and roll because that was the
Uh-huh.
easiest, like Beatles songs and
Yeah.
Chuck Berry stuff. That was kind of like the easiest stuff to learn, and from there it kind of went. I started playing '50s stuff. I started getting more into '60s music,
Yeah.
um, more of the late '60s rock and roll, and then '70s with Led Zeppelin and Kiss and everything. So I was kind of going through it chronologically, decade by decade, but at the same time, you know, knowing what was going on in the '80s and the '90s. So I
Uh-huh.
had the current stuff in my head as well as the stuff from the past. So many different influences in music at the time.
Were you also influenced in the '90s by all the alternative, like what was called the grunge era and all that stuff?
Yeah. So when Nirvana came out, I just started high school, and at the time, so interesting stories. Like at that time, also I started taking jazz guitar lessons.
Oh,
So
nice.
I was kind of torn between so many different styles of music. I had the modern rock, the grunge that was happening,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I was trying to get into jazz. I was still new, so I didn't know what to listen to or what to learn. So I had these two sides of me where, like, my intellectual side was trying to learn jazz and understand it, and at the same time, hey, Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and all those bands were coming out. So I had, days where I would only listen to jazz and days where I would only listen to like what was on the radio.
Nice. Wow. That's awesome. Well, I can hear when you're when I don't know how far you got with the jazz thing, but when I hear you playing blues, I sometimes I can hear some kind of sophisticated blues, and I
Yeah,
wonder if that's because of your jazz studies, because of
absolutely.
because probably you know how to play an alter dominant, things like that, right? So that's
Sort of.
why that's where I that's what I hear when I hear you play.
Yeah, well, that was another big part of my life was so I took jazz guitar lessons in high school for a little bit, and then when I got to college, I actually went to music school. I
Okay.
went to the University of Miami to study jazz guitar. So I
Uh-huh.
had 4 years of college level education for jazz guitar, and that you're totally submersed in jazz music.
Uh-huh.
So every day I'm playing jazz listening to jazz, but also at the same time still listening to what was on the radio and other, rock and metal stuff too. So, um, it eventually all gets drawn into like one thing, all these influences, and it comes out as one weird style, I guess. So that's why you will hear me play, if I feel like it, maybe like a jazz altered lick over some rock song or blues song or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, that's one of the things personally myself that I like the most, because I love people like Robin Ford and things like that, and that's the stuff that I automatically first time when I first heard you uh, catch my attention, because of course all the background that you have from the 50s, that it's pretty, I mean, that I can tell real fast, when I hear you play, but also those alter dominance licks and things like that, and that really puts me in a very good mood, every time I hear it.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a musician, whenever we hear something that's interesting to our ears, um, it gets our attention. So
That's
like
right.
that's why we like guys like Robin Ford or
Yeah.
um, I can't. There's so many of them, but
Yes.
whenever I hear somebody play something that's not the norm and it sounds good and it's interesting, I'm like, oh, what was that? What did he play there? So
There you
you
go.
know,
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool, man. Well, first time I saw you, it was through one of the, and I'm pretty sure you've talked about this a million times, but I'm gonna ask you anyway about the Eastwood guitars that you've been doing so many demos, right? And actually, I want to buy a tuxedo because of you, because
they're
I
great
heard that
guitars.
they're great, man. And you know what? I was many years ago. I was in Madrid, and I got to try one, and I was completely, in love with the guitar because, and actually, the guy at the store told me, "Man, you don't have this sound," and he was right. It's a very unique sounding guitar. I don't know if you agree with me.
Hmm. Absolutely. That was the first Eastwood that I actually bought that,
Okay,
and I still have it. And to this day, there's not another guitar that's kind of like it because the one that I have, at least. It was kind of an early model. It's completely hollow,
okay,
and it's a little bit. I want to say it's a little bit thicker than what they're making now, but it's I think it's a shorter scale. There's something magical about the design, and
yeah,
it's not a very expensive guitar, but it's just so unique that
yeah. It's
you're
probably
you're
900 bucks, $1,000, something like that, I guess, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
it sounds so cool, man. I love it because it's very unique. It's a very unique sounding guitar,
mhm.
and I really love it. So someday I'll buy one for sure.
Yeah, you'll get one. I know you will.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. Well, so I was telling you that I discovered you through those videos, and I think that was the beginning of your life as a YouTuber, if you wanna call it so. So how was the process? Did you expect the whole success that you had with those videos, or how was that thing?
So the way it started was, I probably had a YouTube account when they first started, like in 2005 or 2006, and I would just upload personal videos. I think my account was private, anyways.
Okay.
And then at one point, um, I think the story is I had an interest in buying the tuxedo, and I was living in LA at the time, and they had one at the store, but I wanted to see if I could use my if I could use my resume to maybe get it for free or a discount. So
Okay.
I emailed the company, and the president emailed me back. So it's not a big company at the time.
Yeah.
Michael Robinson emailed me back, and we went back and forth. I had asked if they offer discounts, and he was like, "Well, what can you offer me?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe I can make a video and post it on YouTube." Because at the time I was seeing guys like Pete Thorne, what's his name? Lance, I forget his name. There's, the very early on guitar people that were on YouTube. I
Okay.
think Phil X might have been doing stuff that early, but I saw that people were doing these gear demos on YouTube. I'm like, oh, that might be cool to help advertise the brand, or at least have a video that people can watch to see what some gear sounds like, right?
Uh-huh.
So I
Yeah.
did the video. Well, I bought the guitar at a discount, and I did the video, and nothing really happened for a little bit, and I think I might have done a second video, which I believe took off, and Michael from Eastwood emailed me back and said that they were getting a lot of interest and views on this one video. Hey, can we send you another guitar? So they sent me, I think it was an airline bighorn or longhorn, I can't remember. So I did a second video, and from there it just kind of slowly progressed into them sending me guitars and me demoing them. And at the same time, I was still like a touring musician, kind of gigging musician. So that was
Yeah.
my main that
Your
was my
main
main
gig,
gig.
right?
That was my main thing. So I don't think I was even charging for these videos that I was doing. I was just like, okay, whatever. It's just fun.
Yeah.
Um, and the busier I got, I think it was probably Michael from Eastwood that said, "Hey, I think we should start paying you for these videos. So let's, pay you whatever." So that's when I started earning money from it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And this whole process was years in the making. I think maybe 2009, 2010 is when I started doing Eastwood videos,
Okay.
um, and still touring and still being a working musician. And then, it got busier and busier. And at some point around, I would say 2016, I had the idea of like, maybe I should stop touring and work on these YouTube videos. But I didn't. I kept on touring, and I kept
Okay.
on doing the YouTube videos on the side
Yeah.
until I did one video, which was a behind the scenes vlog on what it's like being a Nashville touring musician. And
Oh,
I think
okay.
you've probably seen it, but
Yeah.
that one video got, I think it got so many views within 1 month or something that I was like, wow, that's never happened before. This is something.
Uh-huh.
So after that, I think I continued one more year of touring before I said, you know what, let's do YouTube full time. I think I can, make money just doing this YouTube thing.
Uh-huh.
So at the end of 2018 is when I stopped touring for the most part, and started doing YouTube full time. So since 2019 January,
Uh-huh.
uh, I've been a full time uh, YouTuber, I guess. So, and
Wow.
I still go out on tour sometimes, but not like that's not
Oh, you
my main
still
thing.
okay.
That's the
But I
side
think
gig.
now what was the main gig has become the side gig, right?
Yes, exactly. They flipped.
Yeah, but I think I mean it's great because first of all, you I mean I think you work very hard because you're all the time putting videos out, right? And but also if you're able to keep touring, it's also good, right? Because sometimes playing inside a room can get a little bit boring, right? So you gotta keep doing what you do, and I guess you can become more selective, right, with the kind of gigs that you want to play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's gigs that I've turned down last year, and there's gigs that I've accepted, which is great because I don't have to tour necessarily,
Uh-huh.
and because of what happened with COVID, in that was what, two 2 years ago,
Yeah.
not 1 year ago, 2 years
It's
ago.
crazy, man.
Um, Thankfully, because I shifted away from touring and to this, um, you know, a lot of my colleagues that were touring musicians took a big hit, and
Yeah.
they didn't know what to do. And I think I just got lucky because I had made the shift a year prior,
Uh-huh.
um, and I was, I didn't have to worry because I just work from home as it is anyway, so nothing changed,
Yeah.
thankfully.
That's crazy, man. That's pretty. I mean, the whole world has changed so much in the last 2 years that I still can't believe that we're living through this, and hopefully, things are going back to normal, and you're gonna get to choose your gigs again, and all the tours that you can do. But it's pretty interesting because I also wanted to ask you, even though you're not touring that much lately, but I wanted to ask you how you find the time while you're on the road to take the camera and get those shots and everything, man, and then edit video while you're on tour. That takes a lot of work, man. Let me tell you, because I've been touring myself, and sometimes the only thing you want to do is to lay on the bed, for
Hmm.
right
Yeah,
for a bunch of hours, and you keep working,
yeah.
besides
It's
playing.
very difficult to do the whole touring and trying to shoot vlogs, but you kind of have to you have to be excited about it first. So you
Okay.
have to be like, oh, this is a cool shot I should get while we're here, or this would make a thing. So a lot of times I'm constantly thinking about the video I'm making because when you're touring, it's
Yeah.
really the only work you have to do is get on stage for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and that's it. Everything else is just like wait around time, doing
Yeah.
nothing time. So I figured, why don't I just do something in that time? So the first
Uh-huh.
one I did, which was here in Nashville, was with my Nashville touring gig.
Uh-huh.
Before we left on that week, it was like a weekend run. Before I left on that weekend run, I kind of was coming up with ideas and shots that I wanted to include. But from there, it was kind of like everything was random. So I just had a camera and my phone, and I would just shoot random things. And then I didn't edit it until I got home. But
Got it.
there have been times where I was on tour, where I was on tour for almost a month, where I had to edit stuff on the road, and that's hard. But like I said, you have so much free time when you're not doing a sound check or you're not doing the gig that that's plenty of time to do that stuff. So
Yeah.
I think what it comes down to is you have to be excited about doing that stuff. Now I'm not like if you told me to go on the road right now and then also film a vlog about it, I'd be like, nah, I don't. It's too much. Like just thinking about the gear that I have to pack and
Oh yeah.
around. I'm like, no, I'm not interested right now.
Especially now, since you have your main gigs doing videos and everything, right? If you go on the road, it's gonna be like almost like a vacation from the whole video thing, right? So
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I was on vacation this whole holiday. Like, I haven't done anything. In fact, I think I got to plug in stuff in my studio because it's still on vacation. But yeah, from the before Christmas up till now, I haven't even picked up a guitar.
well, that's good, man. That's good. I mean, sometimes you gotta rest a little bit because I don't know if that happens to you, but to me, it happens that after a week of not playing at all, everything sounds better. I don't know why. It sounds fresher. I
Yeah.
have more ideas, and technically, maybe I haven't lost so much as I thought I was gonna lose.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's good.
That's what I tell a lot of players that are always like in a rut. One of the first things to do is just like don't play guitar for a little bit. Like don't even pick up a guitar and noodle. Just
Uh-huh.
take a couple days off. And you're right. When you come back to it, sometimes you'll play stuff and you're like, oh, I've never played that before.
There you
That's
go.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty nice sometimes because it's like a it's like a restart from the system, and all of a sudden everything sounds fresher, even if it's the same thing that you've been playing for a while, but maybe your ears are different, and that's what
Yeah.
what makes it different. Do you
It's
have
a
do you still have
cleansing.
Yeah, man. Do you still have time to study, to woodshed a little bit?
Um, uh, Not as much as I would love to.
Okay.
Um, but there are times where I will research a player or a technique or some kind of maybe a solo to transcribe, and I'll just work a little bit on it. But I don't, it's not like I was in music school where you would sit down for an hour and really dedicate to
Yeah.
technique and theory and learning stuff. More, it's like kind of like if I hear a player that I'm really interested in, or something from long ago that I forgot about that I want to brush up on, I'll do something like that. But I'm not actively practicing as if I were a student in a music school.
Yeah, yeah, that's, I mean, that's normal. That's called adulthood, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Because sometimes, I mean, it's life. It's just life, even maybe the kids, or you have to go buy groceries. You have to spend time with the wife. It's complicated. It's kind of,
Exactly.
it's not the same as when you're like 16, 17 years old. You have all the time in your
Oh
hands.
yeah.
So,
I
but
used to
yeah, I'm sorry, I
Oh,
cut you.
no, I was saying I don't even play guitar on the couch anymore.
Ah,
I keep
okay,
I try to keep all the guitar stuff in the studio,
okay.
so my wife doesn't have to see the guitar stuff in our regular family life. So I keep
Well,
everything down here.
that's good. That's good. So, I wanted to ask you also. You were telling me that when you have time, you get interested in a guitar player you like. Do you normally like to transcribe other guitar players? Is that what you do when you try to to study?
Yeah, occasionally. And when I say transcribe, sometimes it's just a little lick, you know.
Got it.
I feel like there's a period in my guitar playing life where I my technique wasn't up to par, not up to par, but I just couldn't do certain things. Like I couldn't play fast, I couldn't shred. And
Uh
then at
huh.
some point, I can't remember, when I was in my 30s, something clicked and I was able to alternate pick faster, sweep pick better. I don't know what
Mhm.
happened. It just suddenly, there's no, unfortunately I can't tell anyone like what the how to get there. It just, for me, it just kind of happened one day, literally.
Oh
But
wow.
I started being able to play more technical stuff. So because of that, I was able to go back to certain solos that I wanted to learn how to play as a kid, whether it was a Steve
Oh.
Steve Vai thing or a Van Halen thing or an Eric Johnson thing.
Uh huh.
That now, that I'm more mature or older, I understand the mechanics of it
Yeah.
and how everything works.
Uh huh.
Like a five note picking pattern or whatever,
Yeah.
or economy picking, all that type of stuff. I didn't have the patience to learn that as a young person.
Uh huh.
Now I kind of understand it. So now I'm trying to learn all that stuff that I shunned back then because I couldn't do it. Now I can sort of do it.
Man, that's pretty cool. That's very, very interesting. It's very nice because, of course, that's something in a guitar player's journey that seems pretty, I mean, pretty natural. But I don't think a lot of people do that, because, of course, as you mature, maybe your musical taste changes, right? And you're not that interested, for instance, in, I don't know, I mean, I was completely in love with Led Zeppelin growing up. I still am,
Hmm.
but maybe these days, I wouldn't go, put a record and try to transcribe it. But you know what happened to me? Like three years ago, I joined the Led Zeppelin cover band, and that
Yeah,
was one of the best things that happened to me ever, because I got to uh, rediscover, Jimmy Page's geniuses. It's
yeah,
and it was beautiful, man. It was great because I actually had to learn all those solos that I never got to play when I was a kid because I didn't have the skills, and
exactly,
that's great, man. That's beautiful.
exactly, totally. I have one of my friends, Christian Martucci, who plays in Stone Sour. He was, growing up, since I knew him, he was always kind of like a punk rock guy, kind of, he kind of dabbled into hard rock, but I always knew him as like a punk rock guy. He played with like uh, um, one of the Ramones guys,
uh,
bass player. but punk rock guy. And then
Okay.
he told me that he got into a deep dive of all of the old Led Zeppelin stuff because he
Hmm.
never was interested in it growing
Yeah.
up, because he was more interested in, like, the Misfits and
Yeah.
all the punk stuff. So he got really deep into it. He bought a Jimmy Page Les Paul and learned all the songs, learned all the licks, all the solos. So you kind of, as a lot of guitar players like to kind of obsess over certain players or one player for a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that's what a lot of us do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good as long as you don't stay forever, in that mindset,
Yeah,
you know, because otherwise you become a copycat and nobody, I mean, if you
yeah,
want to be Jimmy Page, well, Jimmy Page is better at
yeah.
being Jimmy Page than you are.
We already have a Jimmy Page. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, but I think it's pretty cool, learning all that stuff and then going to something else. You just named Stone Sour, and I know you played with them. Tell me a little bit about that story, because I mean, you're the way you play, and then you end up playing with a band like that. It seems pretty interesting to me.
So yeah, speaking of Christian Martucci, so a couple years ago, this would have
Hmm.
been 2018. So this was the last year I was a touring person.
Okay.
Uh, when I was at the NAMM show in Anaheim, January 2018, he
Okay.
called me and he said they had an emergency. They needed a guitar player the next day, basically.
Oh
And
wow.
I was walking around the NAMM show like, I've kind of got stuff to do. But it worked out where there was another guitarist that was able to fill in the next day,
Hmm.
um, and do the first half of that tour that they were doing.
Okay.
So when I went back home to Nashville after the NAMM show, I had about a week to learn the songs and the set, and then I flew out, met up with the guys in the band. I think I did one little sound check rehearsal, and then I think I did like 7 shows or 10 shows. I can't remember, 7 or 10 shows with them. So just one week of learning songs and one rehearsal, and then just jump on stage and hopefully do good. But I it's funny because I never really did a big rock gig necessarily. I've
Yeah.
played in rock bands, and I've known Christian, the other guitarist, for years prior. We were both in the same rock band in LA,
Okay.
just at different times. But we knew we were friends. We
Oh.
didn't play together, but we were in the same band at different times.
Hmm.
So that's how we knew each other. And so he knew who I was as a guitarist. He knew that I could come in at a moment's notice and fill in for this type of gig, because I could play the rock stuff, but at the same time I hadn't really done that type of a tour or a gig. But so I was totally excited. I'm like, oh great, I don't have to play country music for a little bit. I
Yeah.
can go out and just play rock and roll and
And
stuff.
play
And
high gain and
oh
super
yeah,
loud.
and it was I think I brought two of my guitars, but I ended up using. I was subbing for Josh Rand, the other
Hmm.
guitarist. So I got to use his rig and some of his. He had some Ibanez gems that I got
Okay.
to use. So it was pretty easy. I didn't have to worry about packing gear or anything.
Uh
Just
huh.
kind of jump on stage and go, and that was fun. And then this past year, I filled in again for Corey Taylor, the singer. Corey Taylor's solo band. Uh, their guitarist needed a sub. One of their other guitarists needed a sub. So I came in. I had 24 hours to learn the set, so it was a little more intense.
Okay.
I had 24 hours to learn the set and then pack. I had to bring my pedal board and my guitars. So it was only 2 shows that I had to fill in for, thankfully,
Uh huh.
but it was a little more stressful in that situation.
Hmm.
So, but it was fun. I did it, and that's I'm kind of the guy that uh, saves the day, I guess.
Like
If
the
they need,
firefighters, right? You're
yeah,
like the.
like the last minute call. guy.
Man,
So,
yeah, but that's, I mean, I'm pretty sure that that builds up a pretty cool reputation at the same time, because
yeah.
if you're able to deliver under pressure, that says a lot about you, and that's great. Tell me how you approach that, because I'm pretty sure it must be very, I mean, very intimidating, right? For instance, if you have to play in front of a big arena or a big venue, right? And you have to learn, I don't know, like a lot of material, 14 songs or 20
Hmm.
songs or whatever. How do you do that? Do you take, because for instance, what I do is that I take, if I have 3 days and I have to learn 15 songs, I learn five songs a day. That's what I do. But if you're like in that tight schedule, how you do that?
So I have a system that hasn't failed me yet,
Okay.
but and I did a YouTube video about how I learn songs. But basically, I just listen to the material over and over again. And if I can make a playlist in the same order as the set list, so I know what song is coming after each
Uh-huh.
song, so I can make that association,
Yeah.
um, then I'll do that. So I'll make a playlist like on Spotify, and I'll just listen to it over and over again for, if I can, for an entire day before I
Yeah.
even pick up a guitar. Then after that, once I know the songs in my head, that's the important part, is being able to listen to the songs so much that you can kind of imagine yourself playing the songs, as
Mm-hmm.
well as knowing where all the parts are, all the arrangements of the songs, just memorizing that first. And then
Got
I'll
it.
pick up a guitar and actually, write out a chart, whether it's chords or riffs. Sometimes if it's like a Stone Sour riff, I think I might have made little tablatures for things.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'll do that for every song. So I basically have like a notebook of all the songs, and then I just rehearse. I just go run down the set list. That's important because you have to, if you're able to, rehearse the songs in the set list, because that will help you memorize a lot of things and remember how songs start and end,
Yeah.
the in between parts.
Uh-huh.
So I'll do that. And then if I have to memorize the songs, which, on the Stone Sour stuff and the Corey Taylor stuff, I had to memorize everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will just do my best and memorize and just really just play over and over again, until it gets in my head. Sometimes, like on a Nashville country gig, you can have an iPad or a chart to read off, so that's no problem.
Uh-huh.
But
And also in Nashville, you guys have that system, right? Like
yeah, the
the
number
one,
system.
6, 4, 5, those things, right? The number
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of songs, a lot of pop music where it's you just need to know the basic chords, you can get away with, the numbers. But for things like Stone Sour, where it's all riff based
Yeah.
music and you have to know the specific riffs, I might jot down hints of the how the riff goes. Like I'll have a set list that has all the song titles, and
Uh-huh.
then I'll give myself little notes like, oh, uh, 310 310 would be, if it was the riff on the low string or something. Just a reminder for me. No one else could probably understand what I'm writing. It's just me.
Yeah,
So,
man.
like a little cheat sheet, kind of like
Uh-huh.
if I was taking a test, just like little notes that will help me remember the arrangement or certain licks or riffs in the song. And sometimes I've actually brought, like for the first show, I think of the Stone Sour stuff and the Corey Taylor stuff, I probably had a set list that had my notes, just so I wouldn't forget. Like, oh, I'm starting the song. It's me that starts the song, and
Got it.
just everything that you can do to make sure you don't mess up too bad. You
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
if you're the one that starts the song, you have to make sure that you're the one starting the song. If you screw up in the middle and you can kind of cover it up with something, don't
Yeah.
worry about that. But it's
Yeah.
like the parts of the songs where you're really shining, where like you're playing a lead part or
Uh-huh.
you're taking the solo. Those are the important things to remember. And then from there, just kind of be a musician and use your ears and try to make it
Yeah.
sound like you're not messing up.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's pretty interesting. Well, so that's your gig, playing with others, playing for others. But also, I mean, I really love the stuff that you have. Why? No, I'm sorry. When are you gonna release another RJ and the Del Guapos album, man? Please do that.
It's
Come
funny.
on.
Someone was asking me about that the other day, and I think I was planning on doing just like a regular RJ Ronquillo guitar instrumental record,
Oh,
whether
okay.
that's blues or whatever, or
Hmm.
maybe I'm singing. But um, that's what I wanted to get out of the way first, because so many people have been asking me, like, they watch my gear demo videos, and it's like, hey, can you put this on an album? I would totally buy it, or I would totally listen to it.
Yeah.
So I'm still contemplating how I'm going to do it or what I'm going to put on there stylistically. But that's probably my next project
Uh huh.
if I was going to release an album of some sorts. The Doug Guapos thing, I would have to either fly back to LA and get the old musicians back together, or
Oh,
reform a new band. I would probably fly back to LA because I love those guys so much.
man, that's. I mean, I love that. I know you have a record, a single, an EP, right? But it's cool. It's very cool. I mean, the sounds, how the whole band sounds. You know, the sax and everything. The tone of the guitar is phenomenal. I also wanted to ask you, what did you use there, man? Because I'm very
There's so
interested.
well, there's a lot of guitars that I used. Some were mine, and some were the studio. The drummer,
Uh
whose
huh.
name is Pete Curry, is also a brilliant musician, plays bass, and has a studio in LA. And
Okay.
he's got a lot of vintage instruments. So a lot of the stuff that I used was his.
Uh huh.
I think we used like a vintage 335 of his, a vintage Telly. All of the amps were his vintage, like Gibsons and Fender, brown face amps. Um, I did use a tuxedo for a lot of it.
Uh huh.
So the Eastwood tuxedo is on there. I used this one, which is, let me see if I can show it to you real quick.
Okay.
You might have seen this on videos. This is a Hallmark
Oh,
uh,
nice. Yes, I've seen
Stradette.
it.
So
Uh
it's
huh.
kind of like a Mosrite type of guitar with the
Cool.
vibrato.
Is that a
Um,
baritone?
no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
just
I thought it was. Oh, okay. I thought
it's just
it's.
a
I
really
thought the
weird
neck was
guitar.
one of those long necks. Looks.
No, it looks long because
Oh
the
yeah,
body is
because
so
of the
small.
headstock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think this is a regular like Fender scale.
Uh huh.
But
Nice.
this one I use in a couple stuff, and my own telly,
Okay.
but no pedals, all just guitar right into the amp, which is a beautiful sound.
What about the reverb though? Did you use the amps reverb all the time?
Some on the guitar, a lot of the heavy reverb that you're hearing is probably from a Fender reverb tank. The outboard
Yes. Yeah.
reverb tank. So there was one song I remember. I have a photo of it where we were in the studio, and he had a couple of the reverb tanks. So we decided to put two together, daisy chain one reverb into the other reverb. I don't know
Okay.
why.
Okay.
I can't even remember how we said it, but it sounded interesting. So that was you know that's kind of a sound that I really like, that I learned, or that I got more into once I moved to LA, because it's kind of a part of that whole surf guitar sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't really get that sound with just the amp reverb. You have to have that outboard tube reverb going into the front of the amp. That's how you get that sound. But there's also blues guitarists that use that. One of my favorite blues guitarists in LA, Kid Ramos, was known for using, a Strat or whatever into the reverb tank into his amp, and that was just I love that sound till this day.
Yeah.
So I use that a lot, obviously on the record, because some of the songs are surfy, and some of them are 50s. So I thought that's a
Yeah.
that's a great sound.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that tone, man. I really, really, really love it. And I also wanted to ask you about the lead work that you did there. Was it all improvised? Did you write any solo or anything like that?
It was all improvised. Everything,
Cool.
and I can't say that it's my best work, but it's funny. Like when I lay down improvised solos, I just I get it till it's sounds fine
Okay.
to me, and then that's it. Like I don't do takes and takes and takes and try to do it over again or piece them together. I'm just like, okay, that was fine. Let's
Uh-huh.
print it. That's it. That's the
That's
one.
awesome. Do you do the same when you're like, for instance, when you're tracking, when you're doing your demos, like when you're doing a demo of a pedal or something like that? Do you play a lot of things and then you choose the best part of it, or how you do that?
I play and I play until I don't mess up. So if it's a first take, then then that's it. But
Okay.
sometimes I'll have a day where like I might not I'm not feeling it, so I stop it and start it again. And really, I just play it until I get a good clean take, and that's the one.
Oh,
You
okay.
know,
Okay. But you don't plan it beforehand. You're not.
I very rarely create or pre-compose a solo. Sometimes I don't know if I pre-compose a solo or just a certain melody line,
Yeah,
but
maybe you have a little idea and you develop the idea, right?
yeah,
Throughout the
something like
song.
that. But for the most part, it's faster for me just to improvise something and just go and that's it. And I like the idea of being very spur of the moment,
Uh-huh.
whatever. I kind of live my whole life kind of like whatever happens happens and that's it. So that comes across in my playing as well. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, man. So that's pretty interesting because it works for guitar playing, but it also works for life.
oh yeah, I should put that on a t-shirt. Whatever happens happens.
That's right. It's awesome. It's pretty cool and very, very interesting, man. So because let me tell you something that happens to me sometimes when I get I try and try and try and I don't like anything that I play. The best I can do is take a walk or forget about it and then go back, and the first take normally is the best. Is the
Mhm.
one that I really like. Does that happen to you as well?
Well, I don't know if I've ever gone out and taken a walk, but
Okay.
I always feel like my first takes the freshest take, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes, the first take is just me trying to figure out
What are you
something
gonna
what I
do?
want to do, and then towards the end, I'm like, okay, this is what it is. This is what I want to do. But you know, I just it's usually an early take. It's usually one of the first takes. That's the one that I go with.
Nice. That's pretty interesting, man. Well, let's talk about the tremolo. How do you like the Vega Trem? Tell me a little bit about your sensations with it.
I can't remember how I first heard of it, but when I saw the videos on YouTube, it might have been you, who knows?
I don't know.
But the fact I think I was drawn to the fact that it they said that it felt like a Floyd Rose, and at the
Okay.
time I was playing with a lot of Floyd Rose tremolos on some of my other guitars, and I like that feel that you can't really get with a traditional Fender style tremolo. So I'm like, okay, this looks really really interesting. And
Hmm.
then I got it, super easy to install, and uh, then I understood the design, which I was like, oh, that's cool. The fact that it's small enough to go into the routing, so you can float it and go up. I'm like, that's awesome. But how does it how does it feel? How does it stay in tune? How does it sound?
Yeah.
And man, it's I was very impressed how well it stayed in tune. It stays in tune better than a regular Fender style tremolo, and it stays in tune better than a Floyd Rose. It's weird how that kind of physics works because
Yeah.
you're not locking the nuts or anything, or you're not locking anything,
Yeah.
but maybe I just got lucky or whatever, but it's like it stays like I don't have to tune it up. So I've had it on my this is my main Strat. This is like my number one guitar,
Okay.
or at least my number one Strat. And for the longest time, I wanted to keep it, you know, very traditional and vintage looking.
Okay.
Because when I bought this, the parts were kind of relict. So the original trem that came on this matched all the hardware and everything.
Uh-huh.
But I have yet to have a desire to switch it back to it because
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying the stability and the feel and the way you can really do vocal type of vibrato. Like I can't, like they say, yeah, it kind of feels like a Floyd Rose, but I think it feels better
Yeah.
than most trems, and that's a big part of being able to play well is if your guitar feels good. If it feels good, then you're going to be happy and you're going to play well.
That's one of the most
Especially,
important things, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be, and if it stays in tune, that's even better too.
That's right.
So, um, I like this so much that I got a second one that I'm going to put on another.
Uh-huh.
I have a Vola HSS Strat that has a 2-point tremolo.
Okay.
So I'm going to put that on that because that would work great because that's a very modern guitar. It's an HSS, very
Yes.
sharp cutaways,
Hmm.
very modern. So I think that would be perfect.
You
But
enjoy those kinds of guitars as well, right? Because I've seen you playing like Charvels and things like that as well, right?
yeah, I definitely go through phases though. Like
Okay.
last year was a big phase of modern guitars. I don't want to say shreddy guitars, but then I got this one. So it's
Nice.
like I go through phases where I'm into certain things, but I will always love a Strat, and I will always love an HSS Strat if it's a really good combination of pickups.
Uh-huh.
Um, so, because I don't know if it's my desert island guitar, but um, the Vega Trem definitely makes it unique because I'm able to do things that I wouldn't normally do on a regular Fender Trem. And I've set up my Fender like so. One of my good friends, his name is Jeremy. He's John Mayer's guitar tech, but before John Mayer, he was Jeff Beck's guitar tech.
Oh,
And
wow.
I asked him how he sets up his guitars, and how Jeff Beck plays and how he floats his tremolo. It
Yeah.
has to bend up a certain amount of notes, depending on the string.
Uh-huh.
And so I had my guitar set up for that for a little bit just to experiment, and it never felt the way I wanted it to. But this, I mean, I didn't really have to do much. Just the design of it gives me that vibe of I can do like all my Jeff Beck type of bends and trills, and I don't have to worry about it going out of tune. I don't have
Mhm.
the bridge isn't tilted
Yeah.
super high,
Hmm.
so this is just a excellent design.
What do you think Jeff Beck would say if he tried it?
I think he needs one. That's the thing. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten one
I
yet.
agree with you, man.
So
He
whoever's
needs.
guitar teching for him needs to just like slap it on one of his guitars and not say anything, and
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right. That's right. Yeah,
see if
yeah.
he notices.
Probably he would be happy with it. I guess.
Oh,
I guess he would
absolutely.
be. Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about. I need to say the discount code for tonight's live stream. So the code for tonight, you guys, if you can go to the website to buy a VT1, is Ronquillo 2022. It's pretty easy. Ronquillo 2022. Okay, I'm gonna say it in Spanish. El código de descuento para esta noche es Ronquillo 2022. RONQUILLO 2022. Okay, that's the discount code. You guys can go and use it with that. And well, that's I think we're gonna leave it here, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for being part of the family, and as I told you before, I'm a big fan of yours. please, when are you coming to Spain? Because I'm gonna take you places if you come in someday.
Man, I would love to go back to Spain. It's been how many years? Well, I was there in 2018. I played in Madrid for like one show.
I know, and you played in Clamores, which is a very special venue that I love. Because I've played there a lot of
Yeah,
times, and I saw in one of your videos, one of your blogging videos that you did, that you played there, and I was like, look at that, man.
yeah. I love Madrid. It's like, I got engaged in Madrid. I proposed to my wife on a
Really? Oh,
rowboat in Parque El
El
Retiro.
Retiro, that's
Yeah,
right.
so it's Madrid and all of Spain has a special place of my in my heart and my name. There's a whole city
Uh-huh.
called
Yeah, El
El
Ronquillo.
Ronquillo. Yeah, so
It's close to where I live now. It's kind of like 1 hour and a half. You know?
oh,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
well, if you drive through, send me a picture of the sign.
I will. Hey, man. You know what? I just came back from Madrid like a couple of days ago, and I thought about you because I saw it. But next time I'm gonna take a picture. I'm gonna send it to you for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, 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 man. It's right there. So maybe it has to do with your name.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to visit Spain sometime soon. Even if it's on my own, maybe I'll just go for a nice little vacation and
Yeah, man.
go around.
If you ever come to the south, let me know, okay? Because there's a lot of beautiful places around,
Oh yeah.
and if we finally get to go to the NAM show next summer, hopefully we're gonna see each other then. And it's
Yes,
good.
absolutely, for sure.
I would love to jam with you, man. It would be awesome. Would be
It'd be an honor.
Yeah, the honor is gonna be mine. That's for sure, man.
Uh,
Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you very much for talking to us, for sharing your wisdom and your experiences, and thanks to everyone who's watching at the other side of the screen. I'll see you all the next in the next edition of Guitar Chat. So till then, be happy, be well, and play a lot your guitar. Bye, RJ. Take care, man.
See you, Zeppo. Thank you.